Happy Friday, everyone. What is it? It's July 30th? Damn it. This month has gone by. Hi, I'm Carter. You're watching Coffee Break on Unsafe Space. And I'm joined by the lovely Carrie Smith. Carrie?
Hello, Carter. Welcome to Coffee Break. If it's your first time here, this is a live show we do on Mondays and Fridays. And Fridays, we've been doing casual Fridays where we hang out with people and have interesting conversations with friends.
Interesting conversations with interesting people. Don't forget to microaggress against the subscribe button to really piss Susan off. Go ahead and do that. And also, if you want to support the show, you can go to unsafespace.com. You can donate there. You can be a subscriber, which we don't talk about much, but you do get mugs or stickers or whatever, depending on your subscriber level. You get your name in the credits, all that stuff. So if you want to support what we're doing, please go do that. And if you don't, just hit the subscribe button and share the content around, and that's good enough. So let's introduce our guest. Oh, wait, book club. We have book club coming up on August 15th.
We have two things. More immediate than that. This Sunday, we're premiering our first live. This is the Unsafe Space Problematic Film Club. And we're going to be watching films. You know those kind of movies lately where everybody's like, oh, that movie would never be made today. We're going to be watching those films. And so this Sunday, if you want to join us, we'll be joined by a panel of guests that you may be familiar with we're going to be discussing the movie The Party with Peter Sellers. And so that'll be this Sunday live at 1 p.m. Texas time. And the movie is The Party with Peter Sellers. So you should watch it before then if you don't want us to spoil everything for you. And our guests this Sunday for the very first episode are going to be Jared Bauer from Wisecrack and Thug Notes, who we did an interview with. Cameron Pasha, the screenwriter, who we've had on before. And Chrissy Mayer, the comedian. And there might be one other. There might be a fifth secret guest who's joining. So I'll let everybody know.
Wow.
But that'll be our first Problematic Film Club. I think we'll just see how this goes. We were thinking of maybe doing it every couple weeks, maybe once a month like book club, or maybe twice a month. We'll see. It's not as much commitment to watch a movie, so we could do it more often.
You do your thing.
Cool.
Let me know when you watch Tropic Thunder. I might show up.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to do. Can I real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, we should bring these guests on before I say this because
I also want to just mention book club.
Yeah.
So, book club August 15th, Anarchist Handbook, compiled by Michael Malice. After that, it's Neuromancer by William Gibson. If you want to get a start on that one, that's the fiction selection. Okay. Oh, and we have a retreat coming up in August. I think I saw a few people buying some more stuff. So, I actually don't know what the inventory is right now because I haven't looked. There's probably day passes available, but I'm not sure even if there's rooms available. But you can look on the website and it will tell you.
unsafespace.com/retreat.
Yeah. All right. Should we introduce our guests or did you want to say something else? Okay. Go ahead.
Today we're joined by international man of mystery, velvet-voiced pop culture fan, Mystery Chris.
Hello.
Hello. With the voice.
Should I mention? I'm going to mention this, but I won't say it in the rude way I said it earlier. In real life, Chris is a very colorful, snazzy dresser, looks really good and fashionable and cool. So just imagine that when you look at his avatar.
Carter finally got to meet Mystery Chris in real life, and he was like, wow. And the rest of us are sort of saying, yeah, of course. He's not using, you're not using a anonymous image of yourself because you're ugly. It's because of privacy.
Ever since the accident.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Yeah, I don't know. Were you burned by acid or something? Yeah.
No one must know.
And we're also joined by Alex Maselli. Alex.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Alex of all trades. Alex is part of our Unsafe Space Book Club, which you guys may recognize her from, and also the host of her own channel, which is called Alex of all trades.
Yep.
And was recently permanently banned on Twitter. So if you would like to check out Alex, tell them where everybody can find you.
So I have my own Discord, which you can find from my channel, which my channel is Alex of All Trades, no spaces. there is another Alex of all trades with spaces, so watch out for that. If you don't see my goofy face, it's not me. You can find me on Minds, on Getter, on MeWe, and Facebook as either Alex Maselli or Alex of all trades. And Maselli is spelled Miceli.
All right.
Thank
Cool.
you, Alex.
And you'll see there's a pilot of a show she's going to do on Unsafe Space, which I don't know when will come out. So I'll just throw it out there. Keep an eye out for it when it comes out. So, is there any other announcements or anything, Carrie? Are we good? Do we have anything else we have to?
No, here's what I was going to say.
Okay.
At some point for Film Club, since I have a bit of a say in what movies we watch, I would like to cast a vote.
I thought you were the dictator.
I'm not. I would like to watch Three Amigos. Have you seen that recently, you guys?
I've seen
No.
It's been a while though.
I watched it again recently, and there's one part where they're fighting the bad guy. His name is El Guapo, and they say everybody in life has an El Guapo that they have to fight. Ours just happens to be the real El Guapo. I don't know why. It's like the funniest. I know Carter's not amused. It's a very funny movie.
You probably had to be there.
Well, it's funny how Carter, I think right before we went live, mentioned Tropic Thunder. And I was thinking how Tropic Thunder, Galaxy Quest, and Three Amigos essentially have like the same plot, whereas a bunch of actors who get confused as like the real deal and have to fight an actual bad guy.
Okay.
They're all great, by the way. I'm not, saying.
Yeah, I've
terrible.
seen Galaxy Quest. I haven't seen Three Amigos. I prefer Tropic Thunder to Galaxy Quest. Even though I'm a science fiction fan, it's okay, but it's a little bit too cheesy for me. And
really?
Tropic Thunder's a little bit. I don't know. I like the humor in Tropic Thunder better.
Galaxy Quest was originally rated R, but they cut it down to a PG-13, so could have been more like Tropic Thunder.
The scene
Maybe.
where she says "screw that" with the chompy, crushy things. If you watch it, you can see she does not say "screw that."
Guys, I think you guys cut out.
Oh, we can still hear you, Chris.
Yeah, everything's fine from our end, other than that you're mumbling to yourself.
But like she said, if you watch it and you don't pay attention to the audio, you can tell she actually says "fuck that" instead of "screw that." Yeah, she does.
Oh.
But if you read her
They
lips.
just voiced over.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Fair enough. But for Three Amigos, it's the same kind of thing, so I might like it, is what you're saying. All right, I'll check it out. Yeah, what other band movies? What other like problematic movies are you going to watch, Carrie? Oh, Carrie's gone. All right. Screw that. Let's do some super chats quickly before we continue, because then I'm going to ask you guys about some news stuff. But let's find the first one. We got a super sticker from Crazy Cat Guy just saying good job, so thank you. Then Francis Montgomery says, why is the legacy media now denying the defund the police and critical race narratives after the legacy media spent the last 2 years relentlessly pushing both narratives? I actually don't know what Francis Montgomery is talking about. Do you guys know? Have you seen the mainstream media denying the narratives?
Denying the narratives that it's Marxist? Is that what they mean?
I think they mean
know.
That it doesn't exist. But the problem is that they were pushing those kinds of messages beforehand. That's the thing, though, is that it's like you can be doing something and then say that you're, whatever the word is, the term, you can say you're not doing it and somehow get away with it. That's gaslighting, but that is what they're doing right now.
Maybe that's what he's talking about. Because I don't, that's all I see is a little bit of gaslighting. Like, oh, it's not critical race theory. It's because you're calling them out on it and they're gaslighting. Okay. And the last super chat is from G-Man, who says, we need a t-shirt that just says banned on the front and on the back, sponsored by Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, PayPal, etc. That's not a bad design, G-Man. That's not a bad shirt idea. Carrie, are you back with us? Can you hear? Are you all good?
Yeah, sorry about that. I just heard your answer to the last super chat, and it made me think about something. I wanted to see what you guys thought. I'm trying to figure out how to explain. I haven't gotten to a place where I can properly articulate what's in my head, what I'm trying to say. So let me try this with you guys. I've tried it once before. There's something that they do that we know how they use words as magic words to manipulate and to control and to end conversation, not to derail, basically. So they don't use them as tools for communication. They use them to stop communication, stop debate. So, for example, if you're talking to someone who's in the social justice cult, they'll say things like, that's your white privilege, that's your toxic masculinity, that's your they'll just say these things that are meant to end conversation. We know that. But there's something else they do, and I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. They inoculate people against what it is that they're doing. They inoculate them against hearing about it and being able to hear it and consider it. So, for example, fake news, propaganda, right? Here's a good example. I saw an old friend of mine, let's say old friend of mine, who I hadn't looked at her social media profile in a while. And I looked at it recently, and it's funny. I left social justice and she went further into it. And so I didn't realize how much further. And I looked at her feed the past few days, and she's really in it. And one of the things that she's tweeting a lot about is propaganda. While she's pushing propaganda from The View and CNN and other places, it mixed in between that, she's saying stuff about how dangerous propaganda is and how people don't even realize when they've bought into it. And I'm thinking, yes, that's exactly what's happening to you. But she can't see that. And so I was thinking about how they inoculate people against, like if I were to go to her and say propaganda is a problem, and giving your trust to sources like the corporate media and political parties and certain political figures is maybe not a good idea, giving them your trust. They might be feeding you propaganda. She would say, oh no, that's you guys. You guys are feeding into propaganda, because she's already been inoculated. She's been told about propaganda. She's been told about fake news, but she's been told a certain story about it. So when you say those things, she can't hear it. Do you know what I mean? Am I explaining this well?
I think you are, and it's reminding me, I don't remember all of Saul Alinsky's rules, but it's reminding me of one of his strategies, which I'm going to paraphrase, I think. Correct me in chat if I'm wrong about the origin of this, but I think it's the idea where you anticipate what the other side will say about you, and to undermine it, you start saying it about them first, so that when they come in later, they seem like they're the Me Too person, not the sexual harassment Me Too, but like they're the also me, like, oh, they look like they're just copying you. Like when they say, oh, propaganda, it's like, oh, well, we knew about propaganda a while ago, right? Because our leaders told us about propaganda. So I think and I think Saul Alinsky specifically talks about kind of seeing what's going to happen, like knowing what the response, like we're going to release a campaign, right? The campaign's going to be to do like force everyone, they tell everyone they have to wear masks. We know how they're going to respond. So what we do is we first undermine that response.
Yes.
By saying, like, let's say we think they're going to respond by saying that's authoritarian. We undermine the response by saying authoritarianism is when you don't care and you wear a mask, you don't wear a mask, and that's authoritarianism or whatever. We like make some lie about what authoritarianism is, and then we push our mask mandate. The right responds and says, oh, that's authoritarianism, and all the lefties have been that word's been ruined for them. I wouldn't even say inoculated; it's been poisoned. They've poisoned the well. Right, so that word's been ruined. They don't understand what it means anymore, and they argue.
So I just really quickly, and I'll let other people. I don't want to monopolize this, but yes, I was thinking about this, and it's exactly like you said, Saul Alinsky's tactic. It's Jimmy Dore did a video a while back now, but where he was talking about some of the WikiLeaks emails during the 2016 campaign, where Clinton's staff was saying in these internal emails, what's our biggest weakness? And in the emails they said it's Clinton's dealings with the Ukraine. And they said, okay, basically they put that on Trump. Then they're like, okay, well, let's say he's got shady business dealings with Russia. So that when it comes out, it seems like you're just saying, oh, you're just doing copycat.
Right.
They take
Copycat's
that thing
a better word than Me Too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And I've been noticing that with all kinds of things, whether it's making comparisons to, like you said, authoritarianism or fascism, or using the phrase the big lie.
Right.
Things like that. They give it to their people. It's almost like they reveal what they're doing
They
but they're
project.
putting it on. They project it on.
Yeah,
on
it's
the-
projection.
But
Yeah.
but they know it's. I think it's more than projection, because I think the people that are doing it know what their technique is, so therefore they know what the counter argument will be, because they know what they're doing is dishonest. We're doing a big lie. So as soon as we do this, our critics are going to say it's a big lie. So what word do we have to poison? The word big lie. Let's poison that word first, then we'll do our big lie. Right? So that when the criticism comes in, it doesn't work.
I've noticed with all the social justice stuff is it's really forced me and a lot of other people to really know our definitions, because there's a lot of words that maybe before I hadn't really thought too much about definition. I had just a loose understanding of it, and I would use those words without actually looking up the definitions. But I'm really forced to actually have to look up these definitions to make sure that I'm using it right, because they're very good at putting in new, slightly different variations of a certain definition and kind of confusing you almost to the point you're like, well, I guess that could be it. And so you really have to know your stuff,
And if you do react, you could react like kind of viscerally to this because you're being lied to. And if you're aware of the fact that you're being lied to, that they're trying to manipulate you, and you get angry about it, then they're going to say, oh, look at you, you're emotionally unstable. This is how we know. But that's the problem, though, is that it's an abuse technique to gaslight someone like that, to manipulate them. And eventually a person will snap and get upset because someone is screwing with their brain and it's uncomfortable and they just want it to stop. And the thing is, though, is that is not a sign of emotional instability. That's a natural reaction to being manipulated and knowing you're being manipulated, and someone's lying to you about the reality of your world. That's natural. Anyone would react that way, stable or unstable. That's just normal.
Right, but they want to, as long as they categorize it as problematic beforehand, then all of their supporters are like, oh, well.
Yeah.
She did that thing. It's like, so I'm about to smack Carrie in the face. Only people who don't like, when only crazy people react negatively to slapping them in the face. Watch. And then I slap Carrie in the face and she's like, hey. And it's like, see, she's crazy. Like I told you, like, it's like, well, wait a minute. The first thing I said was not true. But if I convince you of it, then I can predict her reaction, because her reaction is appropriate to be angry at me if I initiate force against her. And like, so I know she should be angry at me, but I've already undermined that so that you don't see it as a normal reaction. You see it as like, oh, he predicted she would do that. He must really get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I want to keep thinking about this and figuring out how to explain it, because I haven't really gotten it down yet. But thank you. Thank you.
That was close.
Yeah.
No,
it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, and it's I don't know if there's a word for it. It's like you said. It's sort of like projection, but they're cognizant of what they're doing. They're aware. They know that this is going to be a good criticism of our tactic. So let's inoculate people against that criticism first.
Someone in chat said use the words preemptive attack.
Yeah,
which I think is a pretty good way of describing that. Like,
is it? Yeah. Although I think, what is the poisoning the well fallacy in logic? I don't remember the exact. I think is it called poisoning the well when you do that? It might be, or there might be. That might mean something else. I don't remember. But yeah, it is a preemptive. It is a preemptive attack. You're making me think of something else, which I just want to. I don't tweet often. But I want to walk through something because Chris said something about definitions, and I think this is obvious to everyone, but maybe not. And the fact that people on the left do this maybe it warrants discussion. So I just want to. So I tweeted something out about someone on TikTok was doing some.
Can you make that bigger? Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I said, this is how the modern left sees much of language in general. It's merely a tool to get what they want, rather than reference to an objective reality. Words are part of magic spells used to manipulate others. So this is my comment, right? And this guy commented, and I wouldn't have brought this up, although I think it's relevant to this discussion. First of all, he quotes me, and he says, language is not a tool. It refers to objective reality. Now, it's important to recognize what's happening. That's a misquote. I said language was not merely a tool, which means it is a tool, but that's not all it is. So he's now quoting and saying, I said it wasn't a tool. Not true. But then he uses this example, which I think is fascinating. I'm just going to read. These are two people talking. Graham, could you define chair for me in a way that includes all things which are chairs and excludes all things which aren't? And Graham says, a separate seat for one person, typically with a back and 4 legs. Happy to help, but try Google next time. The definition of woman is there too. Okay, this is some part of some conversation. And then someone replies with a picture of a horse and says chair, because it meets his definition, right? He says a separate seat for one person, typically with a back and 4 legs. So they show a horse, right? And this guy, this is his response, as if this is a good argument. And I want to point something out. This interaction is only absurd or funny because chair has a real definition. If chair wasn't a referent to an objective reality, we wouldn't look at a horse and go, ha, that's absurd and funny, because we all know that's not a chair. We would look at the horse and go, oh, perhaps that's also a chair. And this whole thing wouldn't look absurd. So this guy's sharing this thing and showing the absurdity of claiming that objectives are that words are reference to objective reality by playing on your actual objective reality reference. Like he's saying, oh, you think this is funny and absurd precisely because they are reference to objective reality. That's why you think this is funny. And I just want to point out that actually definitions are quite hard. So when this person says a separate seat for one person, typically with a back and 4 legs, you would think that defining a chair is easy, but actually that's not a good definition for a chair. And it's why it can get exploited by throwing up a horse and being like, oh, so you mean this. And so we don't have to, get into real detail about definitions or anything anymore too much. But I do think it's important to, when we're talking about important concepts, definitions are super, super important. And the general format for a good definition is a broad genus and then a specific species. So it's like a chair is a member of this category of things with these specific properties that separate it from other members of that category of things. And that's how you end up with not getting a horse as a definition for a chair, right? A chair is a member of the category furniture, but it's differentiated from other furniture by these properties that make it different from other furniture. And of course, then that begs the question, what's the definition of furniture? And obviously you have to do that with all of your definitions. Yeah. But it's super important. I really like what Chris just said, and I just wanted to underline it because I think it's super, super important to care and pay attention to your definitions and recognize when a lot of us sometimes use words and we can't really define them if asked. And I think it's an important thing to focus on.
Yeah.
So that's all.
That's a common characteristic, I think, of these very censorious, totalitarian societies. I think words start to lose meaning because they are being more frequently employed merely, as you said, merely as tools for manipulation and control. And so the people who are abusing words are not going to keep the word. They're not going to have them be consistent because they're going to change the definition depending on what they're trying to get out of you. And so
right.
I've seen that across the board. We're at a place now where it wasn't like this 20 years ago. It wasn't this bad. You didn't have to, like, generally, if you said liberal, people agreed on what that meant, or if you said conservative, or if you said gender or woman.
We knew what that word meant.
Yes.
Recently. Very recently.
Very recently. Mother, father. Now we're at a place where it's sort of, they're requiring us to, and again, all of this is, I think, because they want to make communication difficult. They want to make actual conversations difficult.
Well, because they do want to use words to manipulate you. And what they don't want words for is reference to objective reality, because what they're doing in reality is horrid. And if you're allowed to name it, they won't get away with it. So they need them to be only manipulation tools disconnected from reality. And by the way, just for fun, if someone starts making arguments that words don't mean anything, that they don't refer to objective reality, the only really fun and proper response, I think, is thanks for agreeing with me.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to. There's no point in arguing at that point. Just thank them for their agreement and move on, because there's no conversation to be had if that's someone's legitimate. If they legitimately think words have no meaning, there's no conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious because, like, if you read some understanding of like postmodernist philosophy, you can see where they're getting it from, like the language games. But really, language games as a means of getting power, because you think that's how people got power in the first place, which is silly.
Right. They talked real well.
That's how everyone came to power, Genghis Khan included. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Okay, sure. But like, it is absolutely 100% a way of disguising ill intent. And the problem is that it's like, it could be fun to play some language games, to play semantics, like without any kind of real world intention with it. Like, I taught the difference between connotation and denotation when I taught at a university, and I enjoyed it. It was fun, but I didn't expect anyone to go out into the real world and just start using this kind of play to, disrupt our very understanding of how the world works and how we can communicate with each other. Like, I'm a writer. I want to play with words, but not like this. This isn't how I want to play with words.
Well, and playing with words where there's like some ambiguity actually in the language itself, and where like there's different like emotions that the words can evoke, and like that is all fine. But playing with the word woman is a different thing. Like, seriously, out in the world, like, I'm not sure what that means. Like, that's a completely different game.
So can I tell you an anecdote that I heard last night from a friend who's a nurse about the destruction of language, about real world consequences? We've talked about this before when it comes to the medical establishment, and Carter knows I used to have a friend who, no medical background whatsoever, worked at Harvard Medical School in some LGBTQ position, bureaucratic position, and whose job it was, with an activist background, an ideological academic background, whose job it was to indoctrinate Harvard medical students to believe that biological sex isn't real and that being obese is not unhealthy. And they also flew her around the country. She had this job for 6 years. They flew her around the country, and she did the same and indoctrinated medical students all across the US. So this has been happening in hospitals now, where this destruction of language and indoctrination with lies, with things that are just not factual, but maybe things they want to be true, based on ideology. So one of her successes that she celebrated online was when they got a hospital to stop designating male and female in hospital bracelets. So they would have your blood type and everything, and she celebrated that they got rid of male and female on the bracelets, with no consideration for any real world repercussions. And we've read stories about such repercussions. There's one story we covered before with biological woman presenting as a male, transgender, showed up at a hospital, didn't tell them she was a woman, biological woman, checked in as a man, abdominal pains, and it ended up that she was pregnant, and they didn't check for that, and the baby died because they didn't know to check for that fast enough, because the systems broke down because this person is saying I'm a man. And so anyway, last night, this is all leading up to last night, I talked to this nurse who was telling me that, it's getting a little hard at the hospital because, with all the language and stuff, you can't offend anyone with all the different genders now. And she said, for example, the other day I had to call out into the waiting room. It was a man's name. It was like Charles Brown, right? Charles Brown. And this woman, someone who looked like a woman, said, "Oh, me here." And she was like, so I said to her, are you Charles? And the woman's like, yeah. And so she called the woman into the room and starts going over Charles' chart and talking about everything, thinking this is Charles and just looks like a woman. And turns out it was Charles's wife but who just said, yeah, it was a misunderstanding because she thought she wanted info on Charles. But because of this whole fear of offense, the nurse thought she was talking to the patient when she was talking to the patient's wife for a long amount of time. And it's sort of like, how many of these mistakes are happening because someone, and she said, but you can't offend. You don't want to get in trouble for offending. So I couldn't say, are you, but you look like a woman, or like you can't say that. Right. Factual things, right? You can't say this because of fear of offense. And so we're sort of making like this destruction of language and everything. I think it has these real world consequences where somebody's health, somebody's medical status is less important now than fear of offense for getting the words wrong,
Yeah. Yeah. And then Visa's got the like put whatever name you want on your credit card thing now. Which is like okay.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Like
I didn't take that debt out. That was Helicopter McPhee. Not me, like or whatever. Like
it says Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. It's just.
I talked about Netflix did this thing with the Babysitters Club. I think they adapted, and they had all these promos and with the transgender child and everything, and they have to take her to the hospital. And the nurses and doctors keep misgendering her and saying him because biologically male. And the babysitter's like, no, you're being so mean to her by doing that. And they're trying to give her like blue scrubs. And I'm like, since when do they do that at a hospital? I've never seen that at a hospital. But anyway, that was my first thought, though, was what if the child has testicular torsion?
Yeah.
Right.
That was my first thought. And I was like, this isn't helping the doctors and the nurses do their jobs like at all. Like, and I've heard trans people talk about this, how you need to be upfront with your position as a trans person when you go for medical care, because it is a very specific, narrow demographic that needs specialized care. So if you aren't doing that, then you're setting yourself up for extreme damage possibly. And why would you do that for validation? That's not a good reason to get validated. That's self-destruction.
Yeah, I agree. So let's let me do a couple super chats and then we'll.
And then I have something I want to ask these two guests about in particular.
These two in particular?
Yes.
All right. Hold on. I got logged out by mistake on my super chat thing.
I'll read one. Fina City Cycling, thank you, sir or ma'am, says, Michael Malice argues that those who speak multiple languages aren't as susceptible to these language games. Thoughts? Well, that's very interesting.
Well, I do like to defer to Michael Malice, generally. But I don't think that's... maybe they're not as susceptible. But certainly there are people who speak multiple languages that play these games and are susceptible to these games. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that a likely thing? If you speak multiple languages, you're less susceptible to this?
I only speak one language.
Maybe if it's true, I have no idea if it's true or not, but if it's true, it might be because you've become accustomed to having to learn how to make yourself understood in several different languages. And so being very specific with words, you're accustomed to that.
Yeah. And I would imagine it also, when you learn another language, you have to, your brain starts thinking in terms of concepts instead of just the labels, because like, one object has multiple labels to it now, right?
Yes.
And so you're thinking conceptually and maybe having to attach things to the real world a little bit, because you have to, in your mind, make a choice about what label you're using depending on what language you're speaking. And so you get less caught up in like, labels are everything, because you're like, well, they're clearly not everything, because I could use this set of labels or that set of labels and I'm saying the same freaking thing. So
right.
Right. That might be. I mean, that's intuitively that's what makes sense. But all right. I got my super chat thing back. Johnny Boy Quickdraw says the blatant like button supremacy on this channel is frankly disgusting. Do better. Equal likes and dislikes for all. Buttons of the world unite.
Thank you, Johnny
Thanks,
Boy.
Johnny Boy. Christopher Gorey says, I recently lost a good friend to the SJW cult, a beautiful, brilliant, independent 33-year-old. I watched how they did it as they limited access to their friends and preyed on her kindness. Sick people.
Christopher, I'm so sorry. I know exactly what that's like. I having been that person that got lost in the cult, and also after leaving it, see people get pulled into it, and they do prey upon. We've talked about this on the show before, but they, especially young people and young women in particular, college age women, who, if you've got daughters who are off at school, they have a big heart. They want to be good and do good in the world. They prey on that. It's just like, think of this ideology as like a personality disorder, but a belief system that's disordered, that's personality disordered. It's a toxic ideology, and it preys on people the same way that individual predators do. And it can recognize certain things in people, I think, and take advantage of those things. So I'm really sorry. The other thing that I'll say is that's a downer, is that somebody was asking me this on Twitter recently about if it's possible for people to wake up after, for anyone to wake up. And I never know which people are going to wake up and which ones aren't. And you don't know how long it takes either. I was in social justice for 20 years. People are in cults sometimes for long times before they wake up. You never know. So I wouldn't give up hope. That 2 decades is a long time. And I had an aunt who was praying for me those whole 20 years, and as long as you've just, depending on how close this person is, if you want to let them know that you're there for them and you love them, and don't discard them. They might discard you, but you can let them know you're always there if they have a change of heart. Anyway.
All right. Do you have stuff you wanted to ask in particular, Carrie? So
we haven't talked about He-Man yet. And given that
I don't even know. What are you talking about?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I didn't even like He-Man when I was a kid.
I did. I loved He-Man. My brother had all the figurines. We had, I think I was too old, but we had Grayskull and what was Skeletor's got? Snake Mountain? Was that what it was called? We had both. And anyway,
wait, Grayskull's the good place and Snake Mountain is the bad place? Okay.
Yeah. So all the comic book and video game and pop culture people I know have been talking about He-Man, and I figure we're on with 2 pop culture people. Why don't you guys give our audience, give Carter, who is not aware of what's happening, an overview of R.I.P. He-Man, what's been going on?
Well, so Kevin Smith adapted it like a sequel essentially for Netflix, a new cartoon of He-Man, and Clownfish TV, which is I think a YouTube channel, came out. They leaked something. They were like, it looks like spoilers, like it's not a He-Man show. It's actually a Teela show. And
what's a Teela show?
Teela's a female character on the show.
Oh, okay.
And He-Man's usually Adam, the lead. And Kevin Smith was.
I'll just kind of, usually, Carter, it's about He-Man, and it's called He-Man because it's about He-Man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn those 80s for their uncreative calling a show what it's about. Okay.
Well, and then Kevin Smith was like, no, that's not true. And all the merchandise is He-Man. It's all Prince Adam. That's all what's everything. And then in the first episode, spoilers, he dies. And then if you look at the episode descriptions of the following episodes, it's all about her. Like every single episode starts, the description with her name. And a lot of people are like, so Clownfish was right.
So it's not He-Man.
It's not a He-Man show. And everyone's mad about it. And my problem with it is it's not, I don't care if you want to make it TiVo show or whatever in the He-Man universe, whatever. I'm not a huge fan, but you cannot lie to audiences. You cannot completely misrepresent what it is you're making, what you're, going to show them, just to get them in the door. We've seen that so many times. Like the South Park guys figured it out. They did that whole build up to who's Cartman's father, and then they showed an episode of Terrence and Phillip instead, and then everyone was mad.
That. Okay.
Yeah, it was. That's the oldest one I can think of. That's 1998, and everyone was mad, and they were like, "Ooh, I guess we can't troll our fans." Okay, and then Hideo Kojima did it. The Metal Gear Solid 2 video game. The prologue is all you're playing Snake like you would expect, and then for the rest of the game you're playing Raiden, and they kept that quiet, and people were mad at him too. And Hideo Kojima and Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they're incredibly well loved by their fans, well loved, and they were still pissed. Like you can't fuck with your audience that way, and that's what Kevin Smith did, and he's not willing to admit that that's what happened, and that it's because everyone's a misogynist. And it's like, no, it's because you lied to them, because you totally misrepresented, and you were a dick on Twitter about it too. So I don't know, like that's why everyone's angry.
And now on Rotten Tomatoes, I didn't check the score recently, but I know it had gotten down to 29% for the fans, and of course the critics were way higher ratings. And they had all these articles saying that fans were review bombing it, and so some people suspect that Rotten Tomatoes froze the score of the fan rating in order to protect it, which I could see happening. So that's another controversy regarding this.
Yeah, they've done that before. If the audience score gets too low, they'll freeze it so that so the audience can't rate it. And they manipulate. I mean, this is the age of propaganda, right? And so all the critics are telling us, listen, you dumb misogynist, this is a great show, you should love it. And the fans are like, we hate it. And Kevin Smith, his response was to double down on what we've talked about. A lot of people in this belief system, they have contempt, a lot of contempt for the audience, for the customers, for the fans. And so his response, instead of, I'm not saying this is easy to do, but instead of hearing the criticism and trying to process it and respond as an adult, he responded like a contemptuous child. He was just, he said he said it was being review bombed as if these reviews are fake. He like Alex said, he basically said they're all misogynists, and that this is about hatred of women. But he can't just accept that, like, no, people don't like you. First of all, changing something to make it woke in this way, but second of all, lying. That was the big thing, was lying, saying that it's going to be about He-Man and then killing He-Man.
So I see that.
By the way, I can't find this on Rotten Tomatoes at all. Am I how boomery am I?
It's probably is it Masters of the Universe or something? It's probably.
I don't know. I searched for He-Man, and there's a New Adventures of He-Man, but the page doesn't work. I don't see it at all. Masters of the Universe. Oh, maybe that's what it is. 2022 Masters of the Universe. That sounds like it's coming out next year. That page doesn't exist either.
Yeah, right now the critics rating is 95%. Audience rating is 36%.
Oh, I see. It's Masters of the Universe Revelation is what you're showing. Yeah, okay. I got it. It's there. It's Masters of the Universe Revelation. Okay.
Okay, so Christopher Gorey just gave us a super chat and says, the other night Kevin Smith said, let me have it on the podcast. Let me have it. Like, give me all the feedback. Oh. And then disabled comments 2 minutes in.
2 minutes later.
2 minutes later. Sorry, dumb
Let me have it. Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah.
So I've lost so much respect for Kevin Smith. Not even just for this. It was way before this, because I used to like Kevin Smith. He used to seem like a genuine fan of pop culture. He's very knowledgeable about comics and other things. But it became very obvious since, he started YouTubing. He's had a YouTube channel, that he was going to like literally every big movie that comes out. And so he's became one of those people that, Nerdrotic talks about when he says the access media, people who will only give favorable reviews because they want to get access to the stars and be invited to the Hollywood parties and everything. That's what he became. Because there was like literally no movie that was that came out that was obviously bad that he would say, yeah, this is not a good movie. Like he would this Star Wars, the last Star Wars movie that came out, Rise of Skywalker, he went to the set before the movie came out, obviously, and he tweeted that he was crying, that the ending was so emotional, it was so great, and he's always taking these pictures of himself crying and stuff. It's just like he has no
Kevin
integrity.
Smith?
Yeah, Clark's guy.
I'm not thinking of a different Kevin Smith, am I? Like,
no.
He's also to be fair.
He posts screenshots of himself crying.
Yeah, to be fair, the 6 days before that podcast, he didn't eat anything because he's always fasting now. So I don't think your brain works all that well, nor do you have much emotional control when you're not healthy. And I don't really find that healthy. I'm a little worried about it.
So wait, I want to play devil's advocate for a second because I don't have a dog in the He-Man race. It's called Masters of the Universe Revelation. It's not called He-Man. So can't it be about anyone in the Masters of the Universe?
True, but all the merchandise was of He-Man. All of it.
Okay, and he said specifically that it was about He-Man. Okay.
Yes. Yes,
Right.
he told
Someone
people.
says Kevin needs a Snickers bar. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And supposedly He-Man's supposed to come back alive. I haven't watched any of the episodes, so I've read some of the articles defending Kevin Smith's decision to kill off He-Man, but saying, "Oh, he's going to come back." All your people are freaking out. So it's been really interesting seeing a lot of people, not just the regular news outlets, but seeing like other YouTubers make videos about the people who are making videos about He-Man, complaining that it's gone woke. And so they're like, well, you guys are complaining too much. But I'm like, you're making videos complaining about the people who are complaining. Like,
you're complaining too much about the complainers, right?
I think it's hilarious. Let people enjoy things is their like response when critics go after these woke titles, and it's like, but they're not enjoyable. If they were enjoyable, I wouldn't care. Like that's the thing too, is that like a lot of people, the MCU is pretty played out, like narratively. Like I'm not all that interested anymore, but like they can still put I'm gonna like go see it with open eyes. Like maybe I'll like it. I don't know. The people behind it might have some gem of an idea for it, even though the studio's got their dirty fingers in it. I don't know. And I'm even more open-minded than a lot of critics, but when it is crap, I'm still going to call it crap and say it's badly written. Like,
yeah. So it is also crap. In addition to not being about He-Man, you're saying it's also crap.
Yeah.
That's most of the stuff these days. They're just not. They're even if you were to look past the woke stuff, however you want to define that, beyond that, it's still poorly written. I don't know if it's because they're hiring people based on checkboxes, and a lot of these people who don't understand what they're writing, they don't understand plots, how to characterize things. They're not well versed in literary history. And other things. So it's very frustrating seeing this crop of writers on top of Hollywood continuing to do the thing that they've been doing for the past 20 years and taking old properties and trying to make these into tentpole franchises with a bunch of shows and movies and things. And so it's none of it makes any sense.
I mean, I'm not in that world because I'm not, I don't do a lot of comic book watching or
Pop
reading
culture.
or that kind of stuff, right? But it seems to me from the outside that one of the things that's most bothersome is that if I were going to restart something like He-Man or I don't know, pick anything, Knight Rider, Rainbow Bright, like doesn't matter, anything, right? If I were going to start something, I would want the writers to be fans. I would want the writers to be like people. I would want to hire people who were absolutely loved the original and like and just it was that passion and love that brought them to remaking it. But it seems like they are hiring people that actually kind of despise or dislike the original thing, and they're hiring people specifically to destroy it because they didn't like it. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. Because like Doctor Strange is a relatively good movie, and the director behind that project, he was a Doctor Strange fan, which I think is part of the reason why it actually works as a film. And but then you have someone like J.J. Abrams doing Star Trek, and he's never watched it. And then you have people going into comic books, especially right now, who apparently hate the whole premise of comic books. The idea behind superheroes is that it's a fantasy, that you're better than you would be in the real world, that you magically got superpowers. But they're writing things like I Am Not Starfire, where they are literally inserting themselves into the world of superheroes, not superpowered. And it's like, why would you do that? It's a fantasy medium where you're supposed to live out like your power fantasy. Why would you do that? Why, like, you don't even comprehend what this is about, and you're hired to write major books for major comic book lines? I don't understand.
So they're basically, it sounds like they're hiring people who kind of resent the fan base, never really like the thing, and just kind of want to stick it to them intentionally.
Oh, yeah. They're hiring ideologues, like people who have an activist or academic background who are social justice, and they're not fans of these properties. They just want to remake everything to fit this ideology. Tyrant Tomsky gave us a super chat. He says, the main criticism for me is when they advertise things as one thing and then they do the bait and switch. It's completely disingenuous. F Hollywood. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, they need to do that, because if they said Kevin Smith is writing a new show about, what's her name? Tila? Like, no one would watch.
And her girl and her girlfriend. You know, like it's like
Tila and her girlfriend. Right. So they need to, because they're not introducing anything that actually can stand on its own, they need to borrow the goodwill that's coming from the franchise itself. I get it. It's horrible. But
Tax Shark gives us a super chat and says, I'm loving today's entertainment, blue on blue violence. ScarJo versus Disney, Emma Stone versus Disney, Rotten Tomatoes versus critics. Popcorn, please.
I don't know the Emma Stone one, but I did see in the Wall Street Journal this morning the Scarlett Johansson suing Disney for some release window violation. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I saw that article in the Wall Street Journal today. I think it's even on the front page. It's Scarlett Johansson suing Disney. I don't know if I'm weird. I don't understand why it's news. I don't understand why anyone cares about Scarlett Johansson's contract with Disney and how much they pay her for what or whatever. Like, why? Why would anyone care? If some random person on the street came up to me and was like, I'm having an employment dispute with Walmart. I'm like, good. Good for you. Like, I hope it goes well, I guess. Like, I have no idea. I have no vested interest. I don't care. Why is that news? But it's literally on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So
I've had that feeling recently about other things. Like, for example, I do care about certain pop culture things because I think it's indicative. It's a symptom of a much larger cultural rot in a culture war. So the He-Man thing, for example, that's just one tiny little symptom of something very big that we've all been talking about, right? But there are other things that are in the news that I see people talking about that I just don't get it. Like, if you're on social media the past few days, for a while it was about a porn star being kicked out of a conservative conference, TPUSA. I don't care. Why is everybody arguing about this?
That one I actually get and I care about because I think there's a deeper issue. But I understand
Then most recently it's the Simone Biles and the Olympics thing, and her not, and everybody seemed to have an opinion one way or the other. And somebody even asked me last night out in the real world at a show, what do you guys think about the Simone Biles in the Olympics? And I said, I think that I don't want to think about it. Who cares? I don't get that at all. Like, why are we talking about this?
Can you enlighten me? I'm not even sure what happened. Or do I care even what happened?
You don't care. It doesn't matter. It's so stupid.
She did something? Like, okay, all right.
No, but the only thing about it that's interesting to me is why is the media pushing this story? I saw a great meme of somebody who's standing against the wall saying, I don't care about and don't want to know about the Olympics or Simone Biles. And then another person had a huge tuba with the tuba over their head. And it said the media, Simone Biles. It's like, why are you pumping this story? And I think it's just maybe it's just another example of how they'll seize on anything to try and divide us and make us all, oh, you better have an opinion on this. And one side thinks this and one side thinks that. But what? Like,
But it's also like, I think a lot of times they kind of project certain narratives onto sporting events. Like I noticed, like, I guess it's been like 20 years since ESPN started doing the human interest story. So like you'll be watching a football game and they'll cut to one of the sideline reporters and she'll go into a story about how the running back was the product of a single mother and he had to walk to school 5 miles in the snow. And I'm thinking, I don't care. I just want to watch the game. But I've been watching some of the Olympic stuff, and you do the same thing. They have to have all these heartwarming stories about their family and their journey. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't know ESPN was doing that because I'm not a big sports guy, when I watch, it's usually just the World Cup or hockey or something. I didn't know that ESPN was doing that, but that is annoying. That would be. I honestly, maybe this makes me an asshole. I hate human interest stories, and I don't think I hate them. No, I don't think I hate them like as such. Like I don't think I hate human interest story qua human interest story, but I feel like everything I see from mainstream media is always some human interest story designed to manipulate me to agree with some narrative somewhere, and I'm just turned off to human interest stories generally. Like I don't care. I don't want to hear them. Like, I'm going to save my empathy for people that are actually in my life. I just don't care.
I think they've turned sports into reality TV because the way the reality TV works is that they tell you all these bullshit things that have nothing to do with whatever's going on. Like a dance competition show, and they're like, want to tell you about their lives or whatever. And it's like, no one cares. Just show them dance. And then, it's the same thing with sports. I don't give a shit about sports at all. So to me, I'm missing out on, I see the Olympics ads and I'm like, just shut up. I just don't want to hear about it at all. Please. Let's go back to talking about He-Man.
I haven't watched any of the Olympics. Like I don't even know it started. I just hear people talking about it.
So I do enjoy
the Olympics.
I enjoy sports, but that's because I enjoy the enthusiasm of others who really love sports. So I like going to live events and stuff with people who are really into it, or going to a sports bar with people who are really into it. That's exciting. It's like going to Ren Fair with people who are super into Ren Fair, or going to Comic-Con and hitting a particular booth with a friend who's a fan of that particular, IP. And so I do get into sports, but I don't, with this particular Olympics, I would be curious to see figures on who's watching, because my gut, my assumption is that people are tuned out this year. My assumption is that there aren't as many people, because we've seen a destruction of, so just like what's happened in He-Man or all these different, entertainment options, all these different properties, the same thing has happened in the sports world, where something that used to be a place of camaraderie, where people came together with a sense of community and the sort of harmless kind of tribalism. It's like, this is my, I'm a Star Wars fan. Well, I'm a Star Trek fan.
It's an outlet. It's a healthy outlet for tribalism. Yeah.
A healthy outlet for tribalism. That's been polluted now with ideology, and they've tried to divide it, and they've taken some of the joy out of it. And so I bet you there aren't as many people tuning in now as there used to be. I mean, I used to watch the Olympics every year. Every 4 years. I don't care to
every
watch
2 years
this year.
I would watch it if they did if they showed the shooting, but they won't show the shooting in the US.
They don't show the shooting?
No. So I've never watched it. There's a in the winter sports, there's a competition where people ski downhill with a rifle and shoot targets. I want to see that.
Yeah, it's cross country skiing, but yes, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And my smart TV, it has all those normal menu things on the home page, and like update, restart, power off, whatever. And one of them is the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and I'm like, no, go away! You literally updated my smart TV to push the Olympics on me. And
yeah. I didn't realize they're not showing any shooting. That's crazy.
They won't.
That's crazy. Maybe they'll remove it as a sport eventually.
So
it is a sport.
So Penumbra Syndicate says, he gives us a super chat and says, this is why you should turn off the Olympics and watch the CrossFit Games. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I'm going to take your word for it that's more that's more entertaining. Noah N says CVX breakout failure or Simone distraction. Oh, I see.
You know what CVXs mean.
Yes, I get that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then Marie Busky gives us a super chat and says, for the Carter Curmudgeon Alternative News Fund. Thanks, you, Marie. And Johnny Boy Quickdraw says, it's a merger of Hollywood greed and woke parasites pushing an agenda. Take an existing brand and rework it. Much easier than starting from scratch.
Yep. You want to do the last? There's one more.
Final one. Pirate Queen says they murder beloved franchises and they wear their carcasses around, claiming absolute authority over what people should think about the franchise. That is such an imagery.
That's the right, but that's the right image. Like, I think that's the most brilliant thing, the description I've heard, because when you murder your enemies in like primitive tribes, you wear their stuff or whatever to show that you've conquered. That's what they're doing. They're showing the fan base that we've conquered this property. We've destroyed the property. And to show you, we're gonna wear the garb. Man, that is tough.
Chilling. I got goosebumps reading that. They murder the franchises and wear their carcasses around. Oh, yeah.
Well put. Who was that? Rebecca?
Pirate Queen.
Oh, Pirate Queen. Rebecca the Pirate Queen, I think, is her full title. I'm not sure. I hope I didn't get that wrong. Yeah. All right. Well. There you go. What's been upsetting you guys in the news? Is there anything positive? What either gives you hope or pisses you off lately in the news? Either one of you.
The Newsom recall makes me hopeful. Like every time I hear about that, I get more hopeful because I feel like they are making traction on it. And the idea that they even got a full recall vote in, that gave me hope. And since I am in Maricopa, the Maricopa audit, that also made me feel better that happened.
Didn't Twitter suspend the Maricopa audit account though, and a whole bunch of other audit accounts?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And they won't report on the results on any news media. But not that I expected them to. Like, instead, I'm getting my info from people who are like there. I'm not that far from it, so.
Yeah, I'm excited about Newsom as well, and I'm also excited that Larry Elder is running, which I think is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Where in California was it? I think it's California, right?
Yeah, it's California.
Yeah, California.
So he's running in the recall election, and actually, a few people in chat seem to think that he's got a good chance of winning. $10 says he's going to win. Like,
I can't tell. I mean, California does this thing where they will elect someone like Gray Davis or Newsom, who's just horrible, and then we'll switch to like Schwarzenegger, who's like not really fixing anything, but like kind of talks like he might at first, and then we don't. I feel like California's this constant letdown of like, oh, maybe there's a pocket of enough people that are freedom oriented that will turn the state, and it turns out like no, there never actually is, and like the candidate's never actually that good. But if Larry Elder gets in, Larry Elder will be good. So I don't know. I have a little bit of hope for that.
If every woke white person who says that they believe in shutting up and listening to black people were to actually live their beliefs and put up or shut up, and that they want to raise black voices, right, and combat their own white privilege, they would they would vote for the black man if they lived what they say they believe. Woke white people, listen to me. Larry Elder needs to do an ad that's like, put up or shut up. Lift black voices.
He did. I think if he did an ad that just totally, he like went over the top with leftist language in a way that his actual supporters knew he was making fun of it, but the left wouldn't notice, it might work. He could be like, he could talk about his lived experience and as black man, and there's systemic oppression. He can leave out the word racist. He can just like, there is systemic oppression. Like he could say a lot of stuff. He might sway some like people who aren't paying attention, who are on the left, that are like, I'm voting for the black guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The way the woke vote is, they seriously, as long as first it has to say D beside the name. So he's not going to get a bunch of, because it doesn't say.
Does his say L, or is he Republican?
What is he running? I don't know what he's running as. But it has to say D. Then what they do, then what they do is they look at the race and the sex of the person. So if there's two Democrats running, and if they're both women, well, is one of them black? Is one of them Latina? Because then that's how you choose your vote. Like, that's literally what they do. But the most important thing is it has to be in the right party. So like people in the chat are saying, all the woke people are going to say, not that black voice, like not that black man. And as what's her name? The 1619 Project clown. What's her name?
Oh, I forget, but I'm glad, Nicole, so I don't want to remember.
Nicole Hannah Jones. Yes. Yeah. As she says.
How dare you?
She says that it's possible to be black but not be politically black. That's what they would say about Larry.
Yeah, he's not politically black.
Yeah, he's black with a little b, not a big B.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Mystery Chris. Why are you laughing?
Did I tell you so? I was listening to the radio the other day, and I was going through channels, and I don't know if it's NPR or some station like that, and I heard some guy talking about fighting what he called environmental racism, and I think he said political racism, and I was thinking like, wait, what? Like, how is environmental? I know what, and I just started laughing. It didn't make any sense.
Environmental racism.
Yes, environmental racism.
Is it related to the fact that hiking is racist? Because we figured that out a while ago, right?
It's too far for us black people to go.
Yeah.
I saw a new
one. Black people only know how to exist in cities. They've never had to exist ever outside of cities. So
hiking. I saw a new one. This
nature.
Jogging is racist.
If anything, you'd think outside would be racist against white people because we get sunburn. The sun clearly hates us more. But, I
was watching the Olympics, or watching the swimming stuff, which I normally don't watch, but I just badly need some escapism. And I was thinking, why aren't there like activists saying that the swimming portion of Olympics is racist because there's no black people swimming? Can I start this? Can I start this? Barely. Yeah. I'm gonna try to start the most ridiculous thing.
I saw someone when Italy won the cup. There was an article about how they were all. There were no people of color on the Italian team. And I was like, Italy is 91% Italiano. What do you expect?
There were on the English team, obviously, because England is much more of a melting pot than Italy. But yeah. Yeah. Well.
So since we are sort of just casually talking about the Olympics still, one of the funniest tweets I saw, I can't find it right now, so I'm going to paraphrase it, was there was this I don't know, maybe this outrage, I guess, about one of the female, I think it was the volleyball team or something, about how they had to wear bikini bottoms and they got fined for wearing shorts instead of bikini bottoms. Well, I mean, it's another one of these things, I don't really care, but sure, if you don't want to wear bikini bottoms, yeah, you should be able to wear shorts. Why should that matter? Wear shorts. They shouldn't fine you for that. but a lot of celebrities were using it as an opportunity to grandstand and talk about sexist oppression and whatever. And Chrissy Mayer, the comedian, said she did a tweet that was something like, I can't believe that they would force the women's volleyball team to wear bikini bottoms. Where are they supposed to hide their penis?
So true. Great observation, Chrissy Mayer. I actually don't have a problem. Like, I don't really care about the Olympics, but there are like regulations for uniforms, and like if they want to be able to wear shorts, that's I think should be taken up prior to entering the Olympics, and with the committee or whatever, fucking whoever makes the rules about, like, okay, we need to change the uniform requirements. So I do think it's like, if you're going to violate uniform requirements that you signed up to when you joined the Olympics, then you can get fined. Like, that makes sense to me. It's a separate issue whether there should be that particular requirement or whether it should be different. So
change them.
Yeah, change the requirements. Like, there need to be uniform requirements. So, just take off the bikini bottoms. See if that works. I might watch the Olympics if they did that.
Toxic masculinity. So, anything else for today, you guys?
Yeah,
I'm just feeling
Mystery Chris, what's bothered you this week or gives you hope?
Hope. The new Ghostbusters trailer looks good, and I'm excited because the director is Ivan Reitman's son. I think it's Jason, I think it's his name, and he does appear to actually like Ghostbusters. So it comes across through the trailer, and it looks like they have some respect for the source material. So I don't know. The movie could still be bad, but it looks like they actually are trying to do something. Like, they recognize that the 2016 Ghostbusters movies was terrible and that it didn't even try to build on what came before. So it looks like they have some respect and reverence for what came before. So because of that, I'm excited for it. Again, it could suck, but I'm looking forward to it.
I
didn't even know there was coming out.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
This fall?
I thought the same thing when I saw it. I felt like it was not trying to disrupt the original content, which, is one of my best friends always says, we already have a bad Ghostbusters movie. It's called Ghostbusters 2. We didn't need another one.
I like Ghostbusters.
I know, I do too. He's kind of joking when he says that, but it isn't as good as the first one, but sequels rarely are.
Yeah, I mean, remember when like sequels were just not great? Now they're like actively horrible, right? When they made the new one. I didn't know there was a new Ghostbusters. When's it coming out?
I think October.
Okay.
Either October or November. I forget. But,
probably November. Halloween.
Yeah.
Around that time
for Halloween.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the movies that were delayed last year for COVID were pushed back. Some of them were supposed to open this summer, but again, some theaters being open, they decided to push it back even further. So this fall we have a bunch of movies coming out. That Dune, the new Spider-Man movie is supposed to be coming out. A bunch of other was. So should be interesting time.
I feel like the new Spider-Man movie is going to be like a complex mess of a film.
Yeah. Well, I keep wondering, how long before they try to introduce Miles Morales, who is the half black, half, I think, is he half Puerto Rican or Cuban, Spider-Man, into the main franchise, since that seems to be the way that Marvel's going in the live action movies.
Yeah.
So there's
only a matter of time.
There's a lot of people in the chat who agree with you guys and say they're pretty hopeful about the new Ghostbusters. And also, Hale Comics Division, who's in the chat, and gave a super chat and said, I fully support this, Carter. I think he might.
He's talking about just to be clear, he's talking about pantsless women's volleyball in the Olympics. We both know what he's talking about.
I thought he meant Ghostbusters.
No, he did not mean Ghostbusters. So thank you, Ian.
Right over my head. Anyway,
someone brought up Terminator 2 and the second Aliens movie. I do think the second Aliens movie is better than the first one. I still think Terminator 2 is not as good as Terminator 1, but it is really good. So
I like Terminator 2 better than the first one because I think it's essentially the same story, same plot, but I think they executed it better, and certainly from a technological or technical
you
point
like
of
the
view,
CGI?
they did much better on than obviously the effects in the first one, and those effects still hold up. I was watching a video on YouTube of some guys who do reviews of CGI movies and stuff, and they're still amazed at how well these special effects from 30 years ago still hold up. They were trying to recreate it, and they're like, "Wow, this is still really good."
Yeah.
I like
it was just way more expensive.
I like T2 better than the Terminator. The Terminator is good, but I like T2 better. But I feel like Cameron's best work is when he's doing this surrogate parent-child relationship in a movie, which is why Aliens 2 also works, and why every time he doesn't do that, the movie is awful.
But those were movies that did feminism right, because they portrayed women who were tough and they took charge, but they still had flaws, and they still had vulnerabilities, and they had a very nurturing quality. Just like you were mentioning, Alex. With Aliens 2 with Ripley and Newt became like a surrogate child, and then in Terminator 2 you have Linda Hamilton. And John Connor, and you saw how much they cared for their children or surrogate children, that it led to two of the most badass scenes in all of pop culture movie histories, like the when Ripley gets into the mecha suit and is fighting Queen Alien, goes, "Get away from here, you bitch." Great scene. And then in Terminator 2 with the Sarah Connor pumping the shotgun with one hand.
That awesome, I was hoping that was the scene you were going to say. That's an awesome scene.
It was an awesome scene.
Yeah.
But see, and the thing is, if they go ahead.
Well, no, continue your thought, and then I have a question for you about this.
Oh, I was just saying, if the writers today were actually good writers, they could still put in the woke stuff if they were more clever at putting it in without it being, noticeable and ruining the characterization and stuff. But they're not talented writers on top of that. So
no, they're not. And I agree. Well, I don't mind I really love powerful female characters when they're done right. I was having a conversation this morning. This is the related to the question I want to ask you. My church asked me to be on another faith and film panel. We're doing it this Wednesday, I think, if anybody's in the Austin, Georgetown area and wants to come. And we're going to watch Wonder Woman 1984, which I haven't seen yet. And then we're doing a discussion. Why are you laughing?
Oh, that should be fun.
I want to hear your thoughts on that movie, first of all. But secondly, one of the other panelists is, I think she's a cultural anthropologist who's written about in pop culture how a lot of these supposedly feminist characters, these female characters, have not. You have to give something up, and they're not giving anything up. They're too perfect. It made me think of what you've talked about before, Chris, about what was that kind of female character, the Mary Jane, or the character who's just Mary Sue. Okay. Mary Sue. Yeah. Can you tell me what you think, firstly, about Wonder Woman 1984, and also about this whole idea of how do they get strong female characters wrong now? What are they doing wrong?
I think kind of like what I was just mentioning, I think they don't give them true flaws, and they're afraid to have these women embrace femininity. It's like they think femininity is bad for some reason, and so they're trying to give them masculine traits without, fleshing them out and kind of giving them more feminine traits too, to kind of balance out that masculine traits to go along with what they're doing. And so it ends up coming off as very flat characters that don't have any depth to them. Characters that no one can identify with, because they keep using excuse like, well, people have to see themselves, meaning the race or the gender and stuff. And I don't fully agree with that. I do sometimes understand that, certain people are going to respond to certain characters a little bit differently because of the race and gender if they share that. But if you have a character that is going through something that is universal, I think that's something that can apply to everyone and people can identify with. Because certainly there are a lot of women who like Star Wars or even Batman. And yeah, that's a male protagonist, but it's a character that has gone through something terrible and they have to make the choice. Do they go down the path of evil or do they go toward the path of good? And I think a lot of people can identify with going from that sheltered nature or the sheltered life, protection of the parents, being an adolescence, and then being thrown out into the real world and having to deal with real world problems. And you have to make a choice. How are you going to deal with that? Which direction you're going to go? And so I think that's missing in just characters in general, but especially with a lot of the female characters. And the Mary Sue, like I said, is basically a character that doesn't have those flaws, that doesn't have any depth to them. And so, yeah.
I think it's also often the female character does something we would consider on an interpersonal level to be negative and is never called on it in the story. That happens a lot too. I'm a huge fan of strong female characters. Like I went as Xena as a kid for Halloween. I loved that show, and they talked about 10 years ago about remaking the show, and I was like, please don't touch it, because
don't ruin it.
All the things they said they were going to do just pissed me off, and I was like, please don't do this. And luckily it got canceled before they even went into casting or anything. I was like, oh, thank God. It was such a relief. But they might do it again at some point. They might come for her again. But the idea that they act like there aren't strong female characters in past titles, and we know that's not true, because, yeah, Alien and Terminator are two of the biggest sci-fi action franchises out there, and they both, in the beginning, were female leads. And the problem is that, like, if you watch T2, Sarah Connor's kind of insane.
Yeah,
we know she's kind of crazy, like legitimately so, because she's paranoid, but what she's paranoid about happening is going to happen. But it makes her react weirdly in certain situations. She tries to kill somebody, and says she hates men at one point, and her son is like, to her, but like, the lack of flaws, the lack of vulnerability, no one can relate to that. The lack of a journey as well. There's no growth for these characters. If you look at old animated Mulan movie to the recent live action Mulan movie, the old one, she is terrible at fighting, at tactics in the beginning, but then they have that whole be a man montage where she becomes good at fighting, at using weapons and everything, and she's smart. And then you compare that journey to the new Mulan, where she's just awesome from the beginning, and you're like, there's nothing to hold on to as a viewer. You don't see any growth. What are you waiting for at that point? You don't know what you're waiting for. And then also the Mulan story in the original animated is much more universal. The idea that I feel like I don't fit in this world, and I would like to find my place in it. How can I do that? That's very universal. That's not specific, to one demographic. No one has a monopoly on feeling that way. So that's why that movie worked. But the new Mulan is trash because there's none of that work done, and there's just nothing for the audience. So it's like I'm like, I'd rather go watch the old stuff than waste my time with this new stuff. I'm not interested.
Yeah,
we're kind of seeing a kind of destruction of these idealized standards, and that kind of kills the aspirational qualities of these characters. So we as audience members can't invest in the journey because there is no journey, and so they end up becoming just very flat characters that suck.
Yeah,
I just wanted to point out that Chris Jones in chat gave us a super chat and says, if they touch classics like the Golden Girls, heads will roll. Happy Friday. I have to underline that. Leave Golden Girls alone.
we will have to restrain Carrie if anything happens to Golden Girls.
But if they did remake it, Carrie, who would be in it?
Oh, come on. They would make it all like black trans women,
Leslie Jones.
Yeah.
I was joking with a friend last night. I was thinking, you know what? I bet people, and I was kind of half joking, but I'm like, I could see this maybe coming true, that people are going to look at old movies from like 1950s and 40s full of white people and decide to like deep fake them by like putting like black faces on them to like de-white face them. And I was thinking,
They're
like, is that
literally going to go blackface? Yeah.
Yeah. There's too many white people in this movie.
They might. Or they'll just ban the movies. I mean, they'll just remake all of them.
Yeah.
Because they're out of ideas. Someone in chat earlier asked, like, are writers just bad now, or is it something else? And I don't know the answer whether writers are bad now. Maybe writers aren't as good. But I think we just talked about, like, the selection criteria for choosing writers is not appropriate for creating good art anymore. The selection criteria is wrong. So...
Yeah, they're not doing so. The interview that I got to do with my friend Jared Bauer, who was one of the founders of Wisecrack, he gave some anecdotes during that interview. But one of them, and I've heard this too. I've heard the same stories from people I know in Los Angeles. Is in the writers' room now. They are promoting people just solely based on their race and their sex and their sexuality and which of these marginalized boxes they check off. So normally it would be, you start as a writer's assistant, and if you work your way up, if somebody leaves the writer's staff, if you've done a good job as a writer's assistant, you get promoted. But they're telling writer's assistants now, if they happen to be a straight white man, like they're skipping them 3-4 times in a row saying, oh, I'm sorry, we just can't have another white man on the staff. We've got to hire outside, because it's basically, it's not about the writing as much as it's about making sure they have the right identity markers.
Yeah, I don't think there are less good writers right now. I just think they're not prioritizing good writing, essentially, as to put it more succinctly. I think they exist. They're probably all indie right now.
Yeah. It's not as important as other things to them. It should be the most important thing, but it's not.
I'm sorry. I'm bothered by this. Someone in chat, Surly Unicorn, says they're going to remake The Princess Bride.
I think I heard that.
That's my Golden Girls for you, Carrie. Like that. Heads will roll if they make. There's no reason to do it. You don't need to update. Like, it's not like the animation could be, or like CGI or anything. Like, there's zero reason to remake it. Zero.
But
it's not
to
like
ruin it. They're going to make the princess a boy. They'll make the princess a boy.
Yeah. Yeah, or trans. It'll be trans Pirate Roberts.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Do you want to read some more super chats, Carter?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
All right. Oh, wow. Your avatar is better than Carrie's. Okay. Andrew Joyner says, can't stop now, but just wanted to mention saw an interview with the director of Karen, and I'm even more confused. Not sure if he knew it was satire. Oh, I don't think he meant for it to be satire. Okay. Noah N says, apparently the writers of Doctor Who were just fired for their terrible woke writing. Oh, really? I don't know. I don't follow Doctor Who. Do you guys follow Doctor Who?
A little bit. I didn't read the recent stories, but yeah, it looks like Jodie Whittaker's leaving and Chris Chibnall, however you say his last name's leaving too.
The Gay Rascal says, male gymnasts want to go topless, which I support. Twee Girl writes, Mona, make Olympics nude again. Hey, that's an interesting idea because they were nude originally, right? So, again, it'd help the ratings. Penumbra Syndicate says, I'm hopeful for Back for Blood. It's Left 4 Dead 3 without actually being Left 4 Dead 3 from the makers of Left 4 Dead. Releases in October. Awesome. I don't know any of the references.
I do.
Alex?
I do. So this happens a lot in the video game development world where the creators of a title are no longer working on its sequels and they form their own development studio or whatever. And so then fans of the original want to follow that development team because they liked what they did. Now, the publisher and the new studio who's handling the old title are probably not going to do a good job on the sequels, and this happens a lot. So you'll see people go, oh, we were the makers of Torchlight. We were the makers of Fallout New Vegas. And they say that because, like, oh, I was the lead director. I was, I did the art development. I did the writing, whatever. People follow the developers to their new studio and their new projects. The problem is that you're not bringing your IP with you, unfortunately, which a lot of people then are kind of sad that the IP is basically turning into trash, but that happens all the time in video games.
Is that what happened with Last of Us? Last of Us 2? Is that what happened?
Pretty much. The Naughty Dog kind of kicked a lot of people out. It's Naughty Dog, yeah. And I
think it's Naughty Dog, yeah.
Yeah, and they essentially ruined, and also they did have like one of the original people on it, but he didn't understand what was so awesome about his first project, essentially, which I've seen that too. I've seen a lot of creators not get why they were successful on a project, what people loved about it in the first place, and completely change anything. Yeah, people are mentioning Amy Hennig. Amy Hennig is a huge, really good game developer. She writes some of the best stories in games, and they kicked her out, and for a straight white male. And it's like, it's kind of hilarious because people who play video games know her name, like, and it's so crazy to go, well, you're not woke enough for us, so we're kicking you out. And it's like, now demographics don't matter.
Well, she's not politically female.
Fully progressive compliant dog.
Oh gosh, that's so bad.
They should change their name.
Yeah.
Wow, Renovaccio, what a great comment.
All right, a couple more super chats. Best Time Is Now says Superman and Lois is surprisingly good. Which I don't know, I never watched it.
Yeah, I've heard that. I haven't watched it myself, but that's on, I believe, the I was about to say CW, and it's apparently pretty good and not woke yet.
Yet. Exia Valens says, will you guys read Dune by Frank Herbert for book club sometime? You can put it on the list as a potential.
We'll put it on the list. We have a big potential list.
Before the movie comes out.
Okay.
You know what? I usually nerds, because I am a science fiction kind of nerd. Other nerds hate me for not liking. I don't like the Dune movies. Do I have any hatred?
I don't like the 80s Dune movie.
Oh, okay.
I remember liking the Sci-Fi Channel, but I looked on YouTube recently. I think it's still up there, and it was really cheesy. But yeah, I was never fond of the Lynch version.
Wasn't it David Lynch?
Really strange. Yeah.
It was also a little bit Ridley Scott.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Was he
Dune
the
had
director?
like a really complicated backstory production-wise. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think from what I remember, I think the CGI matters. Like, it'd be nice to see it done. If I remember the old one, I didn't like the story, and I also it was just this kind of really cheesy special effects. So.
Well, I hardly consider it sci-fi. It's almost more Shakespearean because it's all about political drama between factions at a court. It feels more fantasy almost in that regard. So I know a lot of sci-fi people are like, where do you put that genre-wise? Because it's not exactly like hardcore sci-fi.
Okay. It's just like drama in space.
That's not what I said.
That's what I felt like about. Shakespeare in space. I felt like that's why I never watched Deep Space Nine, because I felt like it was Melrose Place in space, and I was like, I don't know.
Oh, I love Deep Space Nine.
I don't want to watch this. Yeah. But you got to go somewhere and meet aliens.
Did you watch?
All right.
How many episodes? I'm trying to convert Carl and Deep Space Nine fan.
I didn't watch enough episodes.
Are we caught up with Super Chats?
On Super Chats, I think we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're caught up with Super Chats.
So I think we should call it a day today, don't you?
Yeah. No, I think so.
Yeah. I just want to
we're
remind
winding down,
people
but yeah.
that we have Film Club. It's our very first Unsafe Space Problematic Film Club coming up this Sunday. We're doing it live at 1 o'clock Texas time, so 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Carter's time. And that is going to be, we're going to be discussing the movie The Party with Peter Sellers. And the special guests so far are going to be Jared Bauer from Wisecrack, screenwriter Cameron Pasha, comedian Chrissy Mayer, and we may have a fifth. But if you want to join us, watch that movie beforehand so we don't spoil anything for you. And then we have book club coming up August 15th. Is that right?
Yes, I think. It's not in front of me anymore, but I think it's August 15th, and it's Michael Malice's Anarchist Handbook. And then after that, it's September 19th, and it's Neuromancer by William Gibson.
Right. And for book club, you can be on camera with us during and part of the discussion. If you want to be a part of book club, send us an email at speak@unsafespace.com and somebody will get you the link. You can go to the website and find out more info. We have our first ever Unsafe Space retreat coming up in Texas in August. And if you would like to get tickets, go to the website. You can find out more info about that.
Alex and Mystery Chris, remind people where they can find you.
Okay, you can find me on YouTube, Alex of All Trades, all one word, no spaces. You can find me on Getter, Minds, and Facebook as Alex Maselli or Alex of All Trades. And you cannot find me on Twitter because I was banned from Twitter.
Permanently banned.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And you can't find Mystery Chris because he's anonymous.
Wait, you can. You can find me in your heart.
I was gonna say, you need to just do a Mystery Chris social media profile already.
I should. Can I just a quick little story? It'll be quick, I promise. This is just to tag on to what you mentioned about the movie club parties you're going to do, and how you're going to be watching a lot of movies that are very risque compared to today's politically correct standards. Well, back when I was in college, we were doing some senior projects, and one of the guys was putting together a website to, advertise our show we're going to do for our projects. And so he was getting quotes for a bunch of people, and he's like going around, what's your favorite quote? Blah, blah, blah. So he could put on a website. And he kept coming to me. I was like, I don't know. It's like just blowing him off. And he came one more time, and I was like, fine, I'll just give him a quote. So I said, where are all the white women at, Sheriff Bart? I didn't think he was going to actually put it on the website or anything. So I was like, whatever. Lo and behold, the website goes up, and you see my profile, Mr. Chris, and then under favorite quote it goes, where are all the white women at, Sheriff Bart? I'm like, what? Yeah.
And your reputation was established.
I love that.
Well, just to make you feel a little bit better about my comments about Deep Space Nine, everyone in chat agrees with you. I'm
yes.
A troglodyte.
Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5. I know there's a lot of Babylon 5 love in the chat. Babylon 5 is awesome too.
I think I watched Babylon 5 and it was okay. It was
okay, Carter, what's going on?
Steve Marvin is asking for a Mystery Chris face reveal. We're working our way up to that.
What happened one day?
Someday it'll happen.
Maybe.
If you build it up too much, people will be disappointed by your face eventually. So you gotta don't build it up too much, man.
I'll put on light makeup and then I'll take it off. And it'll be black. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to say I got a big package from Carter, and there were lots of things in it, and some of them are from months ago. And I just wanted to say thank you to a few people who sent stuff. One is Libby Glass, who made me this cross stitch, and it says "Not today, Joy Eater," and I love it. It's just beautiful. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, I'm I'm writing thank you cards. I want to be one of those people who never forgets to send a thank you card. And I realize that I can do that. I can be that person. So I'm writing thank you cards. You can change things about yourself. Don't think you can't.
By the way, for your film club, I think you should watch Soylent Green.
Okay.
Could that be made today?
Soylent Green? Probably not.
Yeah.
Not with the furniture stuff about the women.
I don't remember
when we do that one, we will have you on since you suggested.
Yes.
And then watch Pootie Tang. They can't make that movie because of the time. No, I'm kidding.
Don't even know what that movie is. And,
hey, Louis C.K. wrote and directed it. It's a great, ridiculous, bad movie.
Problematic. Oh,
it sounds ridiculous and bad. Yeah.
I know we're leaving, but several people in the chat had suggested that we watch this after-school special movie called The Wave from 1981, and I finally watched it. It's on YouTube. It's free. You can watch it on YouTube. Of course, it's it's a copy of a VHS, and its tech is bad, but it's great. It's kind of cheesy because it was made in 1981, but it's based on a true story. It's about a classroom in 1967 in Palo Alto, California, and how this teacher did this sort of experiment with the class to teach them what it was like, what it's like under totalitarian, authoritarian governments. It's so relevant today. It's not very long. I watched it. It's amazing. Go check it out. It's free.
Yeah, the thing I like most about that is he wasn't just teaching them what it's like. He was teaching them that they are culpable.
Yes.
Like, it was when you read, so some people read books like Ordinary Man and they're like, well, that wouldn't be me, but I see that some people fall to this. He got them to fall to, he got them to behave abominably and then revealed to them later that they were the bad guys.
That they're the baddies.
It's quite good.
Really good.
Yeah, it was great. So thank you.
Yeah. Couldn't do that as a teacher nowadays. All right. Everyone, please don't forget to microaggress against the subscribe button. And thank you all for joining. We will see you Monday.
Sunday. Bye, Alex.
Oh, Sunday. Sorry. We'll see you
Sunday.
Sunday.
Bye, Chris. Bye.
Whoa. Ah. Am I the only one that has weird? All right. Bye. See you later. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, we have a deep content library that includes interviews with everyone from Mike Cernovich to Megan Murphy, so go check it out. If you'd like to see more, please consider supporting the show by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on all the major social media platforms, well, mostly. And you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space chat on Telegram. See you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been authorized by the Cathedral. Pay no attention to its thinky talk. The following co-conspirators have been unpersoned and will be recycled as part of our sustainability program. Don't be sad. You can't make an omelet without purging all dissidents. Honestly, I am worried that you have been exposed to extremist content. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Science, scientific, and scientifically are registered trademarks of the World Economic Forum. Unauthorized use is prohibited. Computer voice courtesy. Never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.